Hi, my name is Cindy Rang with the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington, and we're going to go through a quick recap of our book club from Monday. All right, if you're new here and you're joining us because you think it's a normal book club, it's kind of not. My daughter and I own a quilt shop in Central Washington State. We've been here for 26 years, and we have over 12,000 bolts of fabric. You can find everything online at fabricpatch.net. We have a very active YouTube channel with box openings and tutorials and classes and coffee with friends and retreats. And about a year ago, we started a book club. Just for fun, just because there's so many viewers and friends that suggest books, and we suggest books, and we're all reading. And so we thought maybe we could make it more collective. And I think we have about 1,200 people generally that join us for book club, either live. Usually we can have up to 400 people that are in there with us live, or that will watch it afterwards. So normally what happens is on the second Monday of the month at 11 o'clock Pacific time, we go live, we talk about the previous month's book or books, and then we vote on the next month. And again, not really a normal book club. We all kind of have the same tastes, I guess, in books. None of us really like horror. None of us like a whole lot of the graphic romance. But we tend to kind of like historical fiction. So anyway, we all vote on it. Sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't. When we go live, Brianna records the live YouTube and then she puts it up. Monday, we went live at 11 o'clock, and we noticed that we had to log back on a couple of times because we kept having this funny little spinning thing going on. And so we went live, we started, and somebody said that we were buffering, and but we kept going because when we're looking at the computer screen and we're live, we can see all of the chat along the side, but we also are being recorded, so the chat can kind of continue. And even though we sort of knew that we were buffering and we sort of knew that we were freezing up, we thought at the time that we were still being recorded. And so the only thing that would be weird would be the chat might be kind of out of order, but we decided to keep going. And so we were doing book club for about 45 minutes. And Brianna, who does not have to wear glasses, could see that all of the chatter in book club was, what retreat are you going to? Oh, did you make that one Block Wonder quilt? Oh, I just got done with another book that was a murder mystery, and this was the name of it. It was really good. And they were having their whole little constant chatter. And I couldn't see it because I didn't have my glasses on. And Brianna kept saying, don't worry about it, just keep going. And so at the end, she said, oh yeah, that we kept freezing up, but they were having their own little conversation, but that's okay. We recorded it and they'll kind of know what they missed. And in the meantime, we sort of talked about what the books would be for next month and even the following month. And so Brianna then thought that the whole thing was recorded, posted it as the recording for book club so people could go up and watch it. And then we found out later that evening, quite a bit later, that the recording was only 4 minutes and 15 seconds and not the 45 minutes that we thought it was. And so everybody said, wait, what happened? What book did you guys pick? And did anybody even like the book? And so anyway, so it is now Tuesday night. We tried all day to kind of try to do it again, and we just couldn't. It was kind of a little bit too busy. So you are stuck with just me at my house. Brianna is at her house with her 3 loud children. It's better to be here. And also, I'm the only one that read the book. The book that we had last month was, we actually had we had 3 that were options, and Brianna didn't read any of them. Tracy didn't, and Marge didn't. And so I was the only one who had much of an opinion anyway. And so you're stuck with me. So last month, what we did, and the book that we were reviewing on Monday was specifically The Night Watchman. But we actually had a couple of suggestions because all of our suggestions come from viewers, and there were multiple suggestions about Native American history because we were getting a little tired of all of the World War II history and we wanted something a little bit different. And so we lumped all three of them together because one of them was, and I don't have the actual book, I did it on Audible, was called Betty by Tiffany McDaniel. I read that book and I did give that book 5 stars because of the writing, and because that I will never forget that book for the rest of my life. And I think about Betty probably almost every day. But it's a difficult book to recommend because it is horrific. It's just, it's a horrible story about a Native American family. Well, the man was Native American and his wife was white. They had 8 children, and the amount of racism, and there were a lot of issues with mental health in the family, and most of the children died. And so you went through just such a horrible roller coaster. It is, this person, the person who wrote the story, it was her, Betty was her grandmother. And so I think it was a fairly realistic account of what really happened in her life, and it was just pretty tragic. So not a feel-good story at all, but super well written. This Tiffany McDaniel, she deserves the accolades for what she did with the book, but it's just a super, super hard book to read. Thunder in the Mountains, kind of a different idea, also about a Native American family and also about somebody who really lived. It was the guy and written by Louise Erdrich, is, I think, the granddaughter of the character in here that was fighting for Native American rights. They were all on reservations, and there was a movement in, now I don't remember, I think it was in the 50s, to try to emancipate the Native Americans. And it was basically dispossess the Native Americans so that they no longer had access to the reservations and the federal support that they were promised in the treaty. So anyway, an interesting part of history. There are some factual accounts and factual people that are in there, but written very differently. Betty was really about one family. It was chronological. You really got to know the family. You loved every single person in the family. Well, not every single person, but you really understood what was going on. This book kind of tells about everybody on the reservation, and some of them had nicknames, and you couldn't quite tell how the families were connected, and it was very difficult. I found it difficult to follow what was going on. And almost everybody that emailed me, and I don't have those papers in front of me now, but all of the people that email and say, this, I can't join you on book club, but this is what I thought, almost everybody said the same thing, that it was just really difficult and they felt like they were lost much of the time. So I think the story itself probably is one that needs to be told. And there is a lot of, again, a lot of racism, a lot of issues with what they had to go through, but difficult to follow. So I think that most people gave it like 2 stars and felt that they were not going to recommend it. And a lot of people didn't finish it. It was by Brianna, Marge, and Tracy. None of them finished it. And then what was the third? Oh, the third option for everybody to read was Thunder in the Mountains. And it was a story about Chief Joseph and General Howard, written by, I wrote it down, Daniel Sharfstein, maybe is how you say his name. Just a historical book. I gave it about 4 stars. I thought that it was a lot of information, dates of battles and kind of what happened with that, and a lot of what was happening with the government. But there was also a lot of sort of flashbacks and spiritual dreams and things that were happening. So fairly dry, but I thought interesting. And again, parts of our history that we don't always maybe read about. I wanted to add one other book This one, it's just a graphic novel, and it's thunder rolling down the mountain. And so if you have like a young adult reader, it looks like this. And it's about 15 minutes to read it, but it's the same story, but just not quite as graphic, and interesting history about Chief Joseph. All right. So anyway, so that was kind of what we tried to talk about on Monday was what did everybody think of the books? No one, to my knowledge, gave The Night Watchman higher than 3 stars. If I'm wrong about that, put that in the comments of what you thought of it. Almost everybody felt that it sort of skirted around a bit. I did too. I didn't ever think that I was going to not finish it, but I did have to re-listen to quite a bit of it. I did do it on audio versus paperback, and that might have been part of my problem. I'm not sure. Anyway. All right, so then let's talk about what we're going to read next month. So what we had talked about in February was the idea of doing kind of a Native American book review, and then maybe covering some of the history regarding slavery, because there was quite a few books that were recommended. And so we lumped all of those together this month also. The book that we're suggesting that everybody read is James. I have read that. I've talked about it a couple times. When I first put it on Libby, I was 85 in line, and I think that was back in January, and I clearly wasn't going to get it, so I went ahead and purchased it on Audible. It's a really good book. It has won multiple awards, and I think justifiably so. It is a story about the fugitive slave Jim in the Huckleberry Finn story. And it's his perspective, his point of view. Very, very good. Very well written. Hard to read, of course. That's part of the problem with historical fiction books, is that we have to come to grips with our history. There's some pretty graphic, pretty difficult parts in it. It's certainly not for children, but absolutely deserves its 5 stars. I think it was one of the top 10 books for 2024. And again, has won multiple awards. If you look it up, you'll see the awards. I probably won't get them all right, but multiple. And I would say deservedly so. So that's the book that we're suggesting. And then there's a couple others that are just maybe along that same lines, if you're interested in them. One was called Kindred, and it's by Octavia Butler. And it is a slave memoir. It also has a fantasy component to it, and it is historical fiction. It was originally written in 1972. I did listen to this on Libby, and I liked it. It was a little bit weird. I don't think everybody is going to like it, because what it's really about is this, on her 26th birthday, this Black woman all of a sudden gets transported back in time to, I think the first time she went back, it was like 1816. And so this Black woman in 1816, very different life from, I think the story is in 1776. So anyway, she's only there for a short period of time. She gets to come back, and then multiple times, I think maybe 5 different times, she is transported back, always in that same, I mean, it's over a span of, I think, about 30 years that she goes back. And interesting perspective, and difficult to listen to, difficult to read. Again, our American history is not great when it comes to that, and there are some difficult parts, but I thought it was really well written, super interesting, could not put it down. And it's another one of those books that I'll think about for a very long time. So that's another suggestion. It was suggested to us by a viewer, and I concur. And then the third option, just kind of along the same genre, is this one. Master, Slave, Husband, Wife. I bought this book probably about a year ago, and super dry, very, it's almost more of a historical reference book than a historical fiction book. This is a biography, and she has all of the dates, all of the receipts, all of the photos, all of the documentation to support what happened with this couple. And what it was is there was a woman who was a very light-skinned Black woman. And her husband were slaves, and they decided to escape and decided to head north. And she dressed up like a white man, and her husband was her slave. And so they actually went up on the train. So my only critique is very, very good, very interesting. I think it should be part of historical reading for high school students, maybe college students. But my only criticism is that maybe only about 1/10 of the book really tells the story of how they were able to do it. I mean, you know all of the details that she sewed the garments and how they got dressed and where they rode and where they got on and off and who they met along the way. But it wasn't just a very in-depth story about that account. I think that I could have read this much just about what was going on, but most of it is about the rest of what was happening in the country at the same time with the emancipation process and some of those key players. So you hear a whole lot about, what was his name? Frederick Douglass and Lincoln, all of those people that were key players, but it isn't just about these people. I listened to it on Audible, got lost multiple times because it's a lot of dates and documentation, that sort of thing. I intentionally then ordered the book. It was fairly expensive, but there are maps and pictures, photographs of all of the people that are in here, and all of the reference. Gosh, 1/3 of this book is just reference material, so that was kind of why I wanted it. But anyway, so those are the 3 suggestions for next month. James is the one that we want to discuss. We also, just as a second and a third, we suggested maybe Kindred and Master Slave Husband Wife. And then the other thing is that we also talked about April, because what we want to read in April is The Measure. And we kind of thought that maybe if you are signing up for it on Libby, maybe you should get that in your queue right away, because that's another one that there's going to be 50 people waiting for it. And we've already picked ahead for you guys for the book for April. But go ahead and keep sending in your recommendations, and maybe what we'll try to do is kind of stay 2 months ahead so that more people can get the books and read them and join us for the lives. I hope that was a decent enough recap. Super sorry that it's just me. It's not as much fun, I know, but at least you're up to date. So, all right, you guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.